Okay, okay. So this is gonna be the reason why I haven't made any tutorials yet outside of the sound editing one is because just how like involved it is to do this all in motion at the same time as trying to create a tutorial, and like my brain just doesn't work in the way where teaching people makes any sense kind of thing. So so this is gonna be a delight, really, is what I'm trying to say. Um, so let's get GIMP pinned to the taskbar. So what you're gonna want if you want to make recolors, okay? This tutorial is just recolors. There's nothing anything crazy going on. There's no recompiling heroes. There's no nothing else. It's just texture modification, okay? If you want to just do texture modification, it can be very simple once you get the workflow kind of moving, okay? So there's going to be a few things that you're going to want. You're going to need the reduced CSDK12. There will be links down in the description for some of the resources, like the Deadlock modding guide for getting the CSDK12, which will also link to Source2 Viewer and probably Source.io for Blender. You're going to need CSDK12, you're going to need Source2 Viewer, you're going to need your program where you edit the images in either raster or vector. It doesn't really matter as long as you can output the images into a PNG format. Doesn't really matter. And you're gonna want Blender, okay? And for future reference, the version of Blender you're gonna need, because this is gonna be relevant in future tutorials, because it's part of how Cloth works and the Source.io plugin, you're gonna want Blender 4.1. Not just like you can use older versions and you can use newer versions, but if you want the right version for what we're working on here, you want Blender 4.1 because with Source.io in Source Engine Export and Exportable, there's this float maps option which doesn't work in later versions of Blender because Source.io hasn't been updated to use the newer Blender API. So you need Blender 4.1 in order to access this, which is important for cloth physics. And it's for a whole other video, a whole other time. But you'll still want to use Blender because it lets you see what you're doing before you get the materials going. But you can also kind of skip Blender using the tools. It's kind of weird. Um, but basically, what you'll want to do, you'll want to find the model you want to retexture. This can be like anything. You don't even, it doesn't even have to be a model. You can literally just go in and change materials that show up in the game, right? But you need to know where the materials are in the game. So like this works if you want to like retexture the map, for example. This is where you would do it. You would actually change the materials in the map, and it would work. And this also works for skyboxes and anything that uses a texture, and the panoramas as well. But the panoramas require vtex the vtex compiling, which is another whole different thing. But we're not worried about that. So let's say you want to go in and you want to recolor somebody, right? You just want to make a silly little recolor mod and not have to worry about it. So let's say you want you want a yeah, why not? You want a Warden retexture, right? So you can click on Warden, you can take a look at him in the Source2 viewer, right? There he is. But we don't really care about Warden the model. We care about his textures, right? Warden and Warden cuff. Now, it's good practice anyways to kind of get an idea of what you're textures are going to look like on the model, but you don't have to do that, right? But one thing that is important is you look at the external refs in a model, you double click the model, you open it up like this, and then in the data tab, no, not the data tab, I mean, yes, the data tab, but external refs, this is where you're going to find all the other stuff that he uses, okay? And real quick, let's go into the Deadlock modding Discord, scroll down to mod releases, search for decomp, the Deadlock archive. This is always at the top because it's the most important usually, and people respond to it often. You want to click this Google Drive link, and in here you'll find, search by name, warden.rar. You download this, and after Google Drive gets a life, you'll have the file, show in folder. Go extract this to just wherever. I just extract it straight into the downloads folder because it keeps a copy in the downloads folder that isn't edited. So we'll go in here. I don't know why is there a chrono? Oh, whatever. So in here you'll have the Warden default, you'll have a blend file, you'll have a proxy mesh in case the character uses a proxy mesh, and then you'll have prefabs. And basically this is what you copy to your Content Citadel add-ons folder in your CSDK12. So in my project date CFG tool, which you use to launch CSDK12, I've created an add-on called examples. And so when I launch in the add-on, it's going to use this add-on folder as the kind of like where it's referencing files. You can launch in no add-on mode, but it's recommended that you use the add-on format because it makes the most sense. So here in our Citadel add-ons folder, we'll create a new folder, models, heroes, staging, warden, and this is where we'll put our files. So all of this is in here. And now if we go, we file, open, don't save, reduced CSDK12 content, Citadel add-ons, examples, models, here staging warden, warden default blend. There he is in our files, just like that, like he has no business being here. And so you can see, you can get an idea of how his material setup is. All right, so warden temp, gigawatt gun. Okay. Now, the beautiful thing about what we just did is we can actually launch our CSDK12 and take a look at how he comes together in the game, you know? Let's give it a moment. Right, go Callaway 1, thank you for the follow. Thank you. I know that was 2 hours ago, but I was in the sauce, you know? So we'll go in here, we'll search for warden default.vmodel. There he is. There's our guy with the hat and everything. You just remove that, put his normal hat on, save and compile. And the cool thing is the way these default files work, the decomps, is you should be able to literally just compile them, put them in a mods folder, as long as you have the backup model created, which we'll get into in a different time, they should just work. And there's some caveats, like with AG2 heroes and things like that, but generally speaking, you can kind of just compile them if they don't need any extra fancy things going on. So for Warden here, we have our default material group. We can get rid of these because they're unused. And you'll notice they're not filled in because we don't have the materials. So if we decompile and export our materials, okay, we go to our CSDK12, content, Citadel add-ons, examples, we select this folder, it'll extract them. You just extract it to the root of your Citadel add-ons folder, right? And now it'll be auto-populated with the material files, and when we hit save and compile, nothing happens. Okay. Warden, models here, staging, Warden, Maya, Warden, temp. Okay, so that's one thing, is sometimes these aren't fully updated. There's one in here called Warden July. Models, hero staging, Warden. Warden July.vmdl. That might be the one we're looking for, not this one. This one might be a little old. Warden July.vmodel. Yeah, okay, so that one, the Warden default's a little old, whereas this one is updated, it has LODs. But of course, we don't have any of the actual files that correspond to what we're looking for. So we can just remove what we don't have. Warden default.dmx. So we can just do something like this. Add the gun. We don't need these. I'm pretty sure. Exclude. Warden hat. Okay. Save and compile. And when it does this, all you got to do is add a render mesh markup. Change this number to 8. And it still says compile failed. It's likely because it's referencing a bunch of animation files that we don't have in our files. This is why there's an anim include file in the Warden default. We do anim include model, and then it's just Warden, but instead of Warden default, it's going to be Warden backup. And we create that file later on. Hit save and compile. He's there. There he is. There's the man. We add our default material group. Save and compile, and now I mean, like, there's virtually no difference to what we just did and the Warden default, so we might as well just go back to Warden default because it's more complete anyways. All that time wasted because we still have to actually. So let's search for warden.vmat materials, metal trim 2, metal trim. So this material isn't in here. These materials don't show up in our thing. So what we can do is same as before. We just find hero staging gigawatt materials and decompile export vtex at the root of our example folder. And then glass dirty, metal trim 1, metal trim 2. These are in the materials folder. So materials, metal. We just want metal trim 1 and 2. Decompile and export. Materials. Metal 1 single. Metal trim 1. Metal trim 2. Glass dirty. So in glass. Glass dirty 1. Decompile and export in a glass folder. And usually with default materials, you kind of want to put them in the default, like the no add-on game directory. But really, it's not that, like, there's not really that big of a difference because you're going to have to do this anyways. And yeah. turn on NPR lighting. See, this is glass. Now look at him, here. Except for his UVs are all fucked. But this is easy to fix, all right? This is why we have him in Blender, because what we can do is we can actually grab his materials from here. So wardencolor.png. Let's just see if this looks the same in here as it does in Blender. No, get out of here. What I like to do is I like to turn this on, because that way it's not relying on a texture file. It's just a number instead of like a default. I think the defaults is weird. Okay, so duly noted, he is fucked up for some reason, and I don't know why. I don't know why he's fucked up looking. It's very interesting. But no matter. What we can do is models, hero staging, warden. You can decompile him right into his own folder. And it'll do this, and it'll populate the... So before, where we had that error because we didn't have the anim files included, this will usually give you the anim files. But you shouldn't compile a model with the anim files. There's like no reason to do that. So we'll go back to our asset browser and we'll just look for warden.v model. There's warden July, warden Soulface, horrifying. Because these older models have different UV mapping, it seems. Even though they've like done nothing to him. They haven't touched him at all. There he is. He's fucked up. Because Warden's fucked up. He's so old that like no matter what, he's like fucked up everywhere. I couldn't tell you why. So he compiled just fine. I need you to bind post. Thank you. Default material group. Warden. Is Warden temp in here? No. Warden vmat. See if that fixes him. This might have been like the worst hero to... Yeah, okay, well. But I think you get the point, is you compile the materials, and then in the corresponding game Citadel add-ons folder for your add-on, there will be the materials, models, hero staging, warden, materials, and this is where you get your materials file, right? And basically the whole reason why you open Blender and all this is because in Blender you can click on an image, you can click edit externally. Of course, you're gonna have to unpack the resources. Right? And then you can edit the image in your program like GIMP. Right? So you do all your changes in here. Then you export this, you just overwrite it, right? So if I do export. I just overwrite the image. And I hit image reload. I've now drawn on the image. You can then save this image into your content, Citadel add-ons, my brain, examples, models, hero staging, warden, materials. And you save it over the image, and then when you open your tools and you re-import, all you have to do is go into the thing. See, he's compiling the warnings. The tools are not enjoying. Warden's fucked up. I don't know what his problem is. He's so fucked up, even the characters in the game fucking talk about it. This might crash my tools again. Oh my god. But there you go. You see, even before we've even like gone in there, he's already got the changes to his texture that I made, right? It's really that simple. And you go file warden vmodel C and under asset, and it'll bring you straight to the folder where all those are. So then you can copy this. Copy this. Copy this. Yeah, you could copy this whole folder basically. Copy. And I have a dedicated folder where I put all my compiled mods. So I do Warden recolor models, heroes, staging, Warden. Now, of course, if Warden in the game files uses Warden temp, this might be a little bit annoying, but it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, he uses Warden temp. He also uses Warden. Oh no, that's the anim graph. Okay, so it's not that big of a deal. You just go materials, paste, Warden temp, vmat C. Then you open your source 2 viewer. You go create VPK from folder. Remove this file. In your mods folder, you click on this folder, and it'll auto populate it. And this is how you make a recolor. It can be that simple, even though that was a really convoluted and painful way of doing it. So we go game, Citadel add-ons, and we go boom. So pack 17 dir. It's 8 megabytes. You'll have to compress the images. Close all your tools. Open the video game. And then when we swap to Warden, he isn't recolored. But that's basically how you do it. Like I said, Warden's probably the worst hero to use with this in case, because he's just fucked up in model doc for some reason. Like in a sense, that's how I made this. Even though the torso pieces and the arms and all this is all a different model. In theory, you could recolor any hero like that, and they would be different. You know. Does the cat Does the cat go to where I ping? No. That'd be cool if you could ping and the cat goes to where the ping goes. But yeah, that's basically how you make a recolor. Sorry, this couldn't be a more involved or like concrete guide. Like I said at the start, I'm not really good at doing this in motion. So I hope this works for you. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Peace out.